Hello and welcome to the CircuitPython Weekly for December 3rd, 2018. My name is Scott. I go by Tan Newt online, and I work on CircuitPython for Adafruit for full time. This is our weekly meeting where we get together and talk about all things CircuitPython, whether you're working on a cool hobby project or whether you're paid by Adafruit to work on CircuitPython or paid by someone else to work on CircuitPython. We're happy to hear about it in this meeting. This meeting happens at 11 a.m. Pacific, unless we run over on our previous meeting, and then it's a little bit later. It happens 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern on our Discord channel. To join our Discord, you can go to adafru.it/discord. We're in the text chat all week, and we're in the voice chat during the meeting here. As I said, everybody's welcome to join. We do have some folks who are just lurking, who want to just listen into the meeting as it happens live. So you're welcome to start there, but we'd love participation completely as well. The general form of the meeting is... Actually, can somebody grab the stats? I forgot to grab the stats for stuff. Our State of CircuitPython section is blank.
Yeah.
That's it should be in the S3 bucket. I'm not used to it being automated, so the stats are grabbed. I just forgot to grab them off the page.
I actually don't know where that is.
It's in the same bucket.
Okay.
I can grab it too. It's where all of the builds are. So the first section of this meeting after the intro is called State of CircuitPython, where we go over statistics about the health of the CircuitPython project as a whole. We have a thing called Adabot that we run every night now that comes up with those statistics for us, and I forgot to grab them. Here we go. So that's the first thing we do. We'll follow that up with a section we call Hug Reports, which is a chance for everybody to say thank you to other folks in the community for the work that they've done in the past week, or since you've had a chance to say thank you to them. We do that in a round robin, so I will start, and then we'll circle back and go to Brennan and down the list of the folks in the voice chat. And again, if you're lurking or if you're text only, just let us know and we'll work with that. After that, we do a section called Status Updates, which is a brief, couple minutes about what you've been both doing in the past week and what you plan on doing in the coming week. If there's any longer form topics that come up, we save those for the last section, which is called In the Weeds, where we have longer form discussion topics and general like question and answer stuff there as well. So if you have more general things and you don't know where it goes, what you do is you put it into the CircuitPython text channel. We'll grab that and put that in our notes for the In the Weeds, and then we'll cover it when we get to that last section, the In the Weeds section. For those of you in the voice chat and in the text chat, but you can't hear me, be aware that this is recorded. So I am recording the voice output from Discord, and I'm also recording the text that happens in the CircuitPython channel as we meet up. And that gets posted both to Diode Zone, which is a PeerTube instance run by Scanlime, and it gets posted to the Adafruit YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/Adafruit. With those recordings, we also post notes. So if you ever you miss a meeting, but you don't want to listen to the whole hour-ish long meeting, you can always check our notes, and there's time codes in there as well. Whew. Okay, so without further ado, let's go on. I'll take a time code, and we'll talk about the state of CircuitPython and its libraries. Overall, as I said earlier, these numbers are pulled automatically by our Adabot friend every night, and they span the last week. So it does fluctuate a little bit, and there's chances that things get missed depending on what that week boundary is. But the goal is to have a general feeling for the statistics side of the project. So in the last week, between both the core CircuitPython and the libraries, we've had 21 pull requests merged from 10 different authors. Some new authors that I recognize as new are Arthur Dent 62 and Robert H. Thank you both for coming in and being new. Deshipu, you are making noise. Um, you might want to mute. And then we had 6 reviewers. So thank you to all our 6 reviewers. And I don't actually recognize J. Edgar Park as a reviewer, so congrats to John for a review as well. Issues-wise, amongst all our repos, we had 20 closed issues by 8 people, which is more than normal. No worries to Shippu. And then we had 6 opened by 6 people. So I think in large part thanks to Kattni for doing a pass over all the issues. We're at 20, which is awesome. So that's kind of overall. And then I also cover the core, and then I'll hand it off to Kattni for the library details. So this is just for the CircuitPython core itself. We had 3 pull requests merged from one author, myself, and Dan, one reviewer. So thanks, Dan, for reviewing my PRs. That is definitely out of date, so there's some new stuff that landed today, not from me. We have 9 open pull requests. If you want to know what those 9 are, check the notes. They're in there. Issues-wise, we had 5 closed issues by 4 people and 2 open by 2 people, so we are down a little bit as well. Not nearly as much as the libraries, though. And that leaves us at 91 open issues, which, again, I don't think that number is right, and we need to look at that. I forgot about that. Downloads-wise, for 4.0 Alpha 3, which is our latest unstable release, we've had 300 even total downloads. There's a breakdown by board, and there's a breakdown by language as well. Check that out. It is interesting. I'm looking... The MKR 1300 Arduino has 27 downloads, and the Circuit Playground Express has 39. So it's pretty interesting to see that up in kind of the top end of the board downloads. And then we also have languages, and check that out. Our latest stable release is 3.1.1, and we've had 4,008 downloads there. And again, you can check language breakdown and board breakdown in the notes as well. So let's go to Kattni for libraries.
Thanks. So we had 18 pull requests merged, which is amazing. 9 authors, and you already called out the new ones: Arthur Dent 62, Robert H.H. Our new submitters. Thank you so much for contributing. We had 6 reviewers, and one of them was JP. Yeah, John Park. So thanks for getting into reviewing. We currently have 10 open pull requests. Take a look at those in case you want to do any reviews. I know a lot of them are more long-term pull requests where people contribute or people put in a pull request early for review purposes, and it's not ready to be merged, but there's definitely a couple things that could be commented on if anybody wants to take a look at those. And when it comes to issues, we had 15 issues closed by 7 people and 4 opened by 4 people. And we currently sit at 53 open issues, which I believe is something like 18 less than we had last week.
Whew.
So that's excellent. Take a look at these issues. Some of them are excellent first-time issues. You can take a look at the CircuitPython repo has a library tracking issue, which I've just posted to the chat and is also contained in the notes, and has links to all of these issues. And some of them are great for a first-time contributor. Something super simple, just need to add, a word here or some sort of punctuation there. Some of them even have the fix in the description of the issue. So if you're interested in contributing, take a look at those. As for the rest, in the notes we have all of the statuses of all of the libraries. That's also contained in the tracking issue. So if you're interested in that, take a look at either of those locations, and it'll give you some idea of where we're sitting with the libraries overall. And that's what I've got.
Awesome. Thank you, Kattni, and great work on all of the library stuff. I really appreciate your work. Speaking of appreciation, that's a perfect segue. We'll move into Hug Reports, which is a chance for everybody to say thank you to other folks for the work that they've been doing. We inherited this from the internal Adafruit process where at their State of the Fruit, they have Hug Reports as well. It's meant to balance out bug reports. It's a play on that. the way this works is we do it as a round robin. So I'll start and then we'll go through Brennan and down the list. If you're text only, feel free to type them in early and we'll read them off in order as they go. If you actually are missing a meeting as well, but would like to say what they are, feel free to send those to me or put them in the notes and we'll read them off even when you're not here. Okay. And with that, I'll take a time code for myself and we'll get going. I had a lot this week. I was doing all of my like lurking and getting through all the email and just lots of really exciting things. First and foremost, I wanted to shout out to SparkFun and Jim Blom in particular, that's his username, for releasing a board with UF2 and CircuitPython support. If you didn't see it, they released an NRF 52840 board that has the UF2 bootloader and some instructions for running CircuitPython. There's a PR as well for that, which is awesome. Second hug report is to Particle. I got their Feather particle boards, which are also using the NRF 52840, and the hardware looks really cool. So I'm working on adding UF2 and CircuitPython support for those as well. Shout out to Electronic Cats. They're the folks in Mexico doing some CircuitPython boards. They added board definition for their Cat WAN board, which is SAMD21 and LoRaWAN, I believe. So check that out. Thanks to Robert H. for the BME 680 fix. Really, really nice to see all those little tweaks making everything really everything better. Shout out to Chalai for adding a new language for Bahasa Indonesian language, which is really cool. As you know, in 4X, we added multi-language support. So people are coming along and adding their languages that they speak, which is amazing. Sagittac, who's usually around but not in the voice chat, helped me out with some forum support last night, so thanks for that. Wade D helped out with correcting RGBW NeoPixel support on the Raspberry Pi. That was really helpful as well. Two more, Katney for doing last week's meeting. I really appreciate that. And in general, being able to share meeting duties with you is awesome, and thank you. And then lastly, Lady Ada has been doing a lot of work pushing Blinka, which is the CircuitPython compatibility layer on Linux, which is kind of unsung hero work in my mind. So thank you to Lady Ada for that. All right, Brennan.
Actually, Azure Skies wanted to say a thank you.
Okay, Azure Skies, go ahead.
Hey, is that working?
Yep.
Okay, cool. I just wanted to say thank you, Scott, and also Dan, for the help you were doing with me this morning. I'm still done, but it's appreciated for everything you guys help with. And just
all right. Well, I think you were breaking up a little bit, but I heard thank you for Dan and I for the helping you this morning, I believe. So happy to have you here, Azure Skies, for sure. And they're typing. Dang, network is being wonky, but yes, that's what I said. Okay, perfect. All right, Brennan, go ahead.
Yeah, so let's see. First of all, one to Lady Ada for had a little pull request in for using libgpiod on the Pi. Turns out that's not really going to work because libgpiod does not support like setting pull-ups on the Pi, but it is going to be usable for some other platforms, I think, and Lady Ada kind of fleshed that out. So on to Carter for reviewing the TLC 5949 stuff, 5947 stuff that Arthur Dead 62 came up with for chaining multiple boards, and one to Jim Lindblom for the SparkFun NRF 52840 stuff and the docs for that.
Awesome. All right, Carter.
All right, back on mic this week. If you can hear me.
Yep, I can.
Sweet. Good. I even took notes this week, so I got a bunch here.
Awesome.
Start off with one to Katney for setting me up with the TMP 006 little sensor. That was a new lib we threw together real quick and got out there, and I got it PR'd in. So that got taken care of real quick, which was nice. A big one to K-Town for come in on providing some good info on an RGB sensor issue that's kind of come up. It's something. It's a weird section of code I came across that was doing something weird, and I created an issue some months ago and just kind of like let it sit there. And a second issue's kind of cropped up that is kind of co-related to that same section of code, and it kind of brought this conversation back into being. And he had a lot of good info, and we are going to basically just revamp that whole sensor. I can't remember off the top of my head which sensor it is, but it's an RGB sensor. It has to do with doing color space on that.
Right.
Another big one to Scott, both and Katney, both of you, for doing those live streams. Those were awesome. I watched them, and I think those are it's just amazing how helpful it is to see someone live do stuff. There's all kinds of little subtleties that happen when that occurs that give people warm fuzzies that they're doing stuff correctly, and there's not like super magic that happens in developer land and stuff like that. So I think those are really great.
Awesome.
And another big one to Jerry N for helping out with a weird edge case on Raspberry Pi and mixed mode SPI devices. He put up some awesome traces and some good info in an issue thread on that. And that was, there's no solution to that. And another one to Lady Ada, too. She helped out on that, too, basically to verify that, doesn't look like there's an easy solution for what's going on there. So that's something that just kind of broke, and there it is. And that's it.
Awesome. Thanks, Carter. And I'm glad you didn't mind me doing an issue that you were pegged for. I appreciated that. All right, C. Grover. We text only today. Wonky audio, so we'll type today. General group hug to the entire team and community. Special hug to Lady Ada for her early guide work. Still relevant. Awesome. All right, Charles. Charles, did you hear me? Your mic was working earlier. All right, I guess we'll come back to Charles when he's back. Dan. Oh.
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yeah, go ahead, Charles.
Okay, hug report to Dan H. He managed to point me to a forum entry that helped me with my MIDI on Raspberry Pi. I implemented a temporary fix so that I can go on with my Ocarina project, and it works okay. But I sure wish the guys over at Raspberry Pi would fix that problem. It may be that it's hard to do odd
baud rates.
Odd baud rates without manipulating the clock.
Right.
So I put a temporary I created a special setup where I manipulated the clock as instructed, and it works perfectly.
Nice.
Except I'm using 3800 instead of 31250.
Right.
So that's I appreciate very much that info.
Great.
And a group hug to everybody else.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Charles. All right.
Yeah, I'm coming to you from 30th Street Station.
Oh, awesome. Awesome. Mobile join. Awesome. Well, I'm glad you made it.
Yes, I did.
Yeah. All right. We'll go on to Dan.
I'll just echo, I think, like several other people, thanks to Jim Lindblom from Spark Fun, who supported CircuitPython to their 52840 board, like everybody else mentioned. And then I just want to give like a kind of a long-term hug to Dean, who has moved on from Adafruit to work for a really neat electronic music stuff company in California. But while he was at Adafruit, he worked on the SAMD51 ports, he worked on Seesaw, he worked on Cricket, he worked on the NeoTrellis board and a lot of other stuff, a lot of other boards, and worked closely with us on a bunch of CircuitPython stuff. So thanks a lot to Dean for the past couple of years.
Here. I'm excited to see what music stuff he does too. All right, Dishipu's lurking, so we'll go to Jerry.
Okay, now I'm gonna go find the notes I wrote. Yeah, first, just a group hug, everybody. A lot of really good support stuff out there this week. It was fun to watch it all.
Awesome.
And then a special again, following up on thing, Carter and Lady Ada both for their patience and help with understanding that funky Raspberry Pi SPI issue.
Mm-hmm. All right, great. Thanks, Jerry. Before we go to, I guess we'll do Katney and then we'll slot Lady Ada in alphabetically. So go ahead, Katney.
So I wanted to say thanks to Brennan for testing Raspberry Pi stuff for me. I'm working on a guide and the code should be the same for both Raspberry Pi and the Feather, but as we have found previously, it's always best to test it first. So thank you for testing that. Hug to everybody who's been providing support on Discord. It's greatly appreciated. And to everyone who's doing reviews on PRs, thank you so much. It's a great way to contribute, and we really appreciate it. It's important to get multiple views on everything. That's the whole point of open source. And you guys are really making it happen. So thank you to everybody who's doing that. And I want to say or give a hug report to Dakota Redstone for suggesting the live streams that we did for the GitHub reviewing and for putting in the effort to learn how to do GitHub reviews. Thank you so much. I know you were struggling a little bit with that, and so I think it's really great that you are taking the time, and I'm really glad that we were able to provide you with that learning experience.
Awesome. All right, thank you, Katney. And before we go to Sean, I'll just read off Lady Ada's here. Lady Ada said in the chat a little bit earlier, mega hug report to Summersoft for the AdaBot updates. They're so helpful. And thank you to Carter for picking up so many small issues and fixes. So that is Lady Ada's update. Let's go to Sean. Welcome, Sean.
Hi, yeah, first time here. So,
first time caller.
Yeah, first time caller, long time listener. Exactly. First of all, many thanks to Lady Ada for helping deal with some USB issues on a UF2 port over to the MKR0. And then also thank you to Scott, you as well, for helping me troubleshoot some of these SD SPI issues as I'm trying to figure out how to port some of the CircuitPython stuff.
Yeah, no problem. Awesome. Well, thank you, Sean, and welcome again. Let's go to Summersoft. I think I'll just read the doc after I take a time code. Summersoft says, hug report to Katney, Carter, Tannute, and Lady Ada for the various reviews and merges. Thank you to Sagittac, Jerry N, Dan H, Carter, and some I've probably missed for Discord and forum support. Everyone continuing translation work, such an awesome thing to see. Totally agree with that. And then the last thing on Summersoft's list is the groupiest of group hugs. And lastly, we have Soundmaster AJ, who said earlier, general group hug to everybody on the project. All right, and with that, we're done with hug reports. Azure Skies that he thinks he's getting a bunch of hug reports because his name is also Scott. So yeah, you can take that. You're doing great too. All right, status updates. 2348. Status updates, we run it very similarly to the way we just did hug reports, except we want to take a little bit of time to talk about what we were doing in the last week and what we plan on doing in the coming week. It's a great way for just everybody to know what other folks are doing, and that includes just projects you're making with CircuitPython. We want to hear about all of it. And so I will start, as always, and giving an example. All right, let me take a time code. Okay, so I worked a lot last week, turned out, and I debugged an issue with the QSpy flash on the upcoming Feather NRF 52840. We were using the wrong command to write to the flash, so we figured that out. I added auto update release files for the upcoming CircuitPython website. We'll probably do it as CircuitPython.org, but we haven't fully finalized what that'll be. The general idea is to have a big layout of like, here's all the boards that CircuitPython supports, and click the board that you want, and then you'll be able to get all the related downloads. Rather than having to troll through like a 200 long list on GitHub. That's our goal. So I worked on that. While I was at it, I fixed up the NRF builds because Nordic moved how you download their files. I redid the Adafruit build bins file in Python at the same time Dan did, but got that checked in as well. Heads up, I'll be renaming that as well because it builds more than just Adafruit bins. So I'm going to rename that with some changes I'm making to it subsequently. I polished up and merged the mini SAM board support. I should shout out to BW Shockley for first designing this really cool looking board that is shaped like a spaceman, and it runs CircuitPython. He got it all changed up, but then I changed a bunch of stuff out from under him, so I went and polished it up and got that merged in. I responded to Dan on the Grand Central PR I made and got that merged as well. So lots of new boards this week is the theme. I fixed the commit build versions so they include the last tag. Basically, there was an issue where there's a library that tries to determine its behavior based on the version number of CircuitPython, and it was wrong for a build that was pulled off AWS. So hopefully I fixed that as well. I did the live reviewing stream thanks to Dakota, just like Katney did. I'll post that video today. I just haven't gotten around to it. Today is video posting day. I'm adding particle board support to CircuitPython. That's the 3 feathers that are all NRF52840s. I tried a few things to speed up the Atmel builds as well, so hopefully our Travis times will drop a little bit. I also got sidetracked into the NRF UF2 bootloader. I want to get the LED blinks to be the same as the SAMD UF2 bootloader. And it looks like manufacturing is going to be in about a week for our NRF52 board, so the timing's really good on that. A couple kind of call outs for if people want to help. As Dan mentioned earlier, Dean has left Adafruit for his own guitar and synth adventures, which is super awesome. He was working on modifying the mixer stuff in CircuitPython, so if you're an audio person and want to help finish that up, there's a link in the notes. It's pull request 1365 on CircuitPython. So any help with that would be greatly appreciated. I'll get to it eventually, but if somebody else wants to do that sooner, that would be amazing. And lastly, there's a Learn guide that needs a little bit of help. We had in the Learn guide, we had a screenshot of GitHub, and they didn't realize it was a screenshot. They were like, I thought this says 3.1.1 is only 11 days old. So we just need some clarifying language there to just be like, hey, this is a screenshot. This is about what it looks like. Awesome. And Adafruit Phil is dropping in status updates as well. Before we loop around, I'll do Lady Ada and Adafruit at the same time, because Lady Ada did a couple notes. She said, 28. Lady Ada is doing a lot of embedded Linux ports for Blinka, so you can run CircuitPython code and drivers on various single board computers. All are welcome to add support for their boards, so if you have a single board computer you love, add it to Blinka, please. We'd love to see that. And then Adafruit, who's Phil, Mr. Lady Ada, says, awesome circuit, or one update for weekly chat. The awesome CircuitPython list was updated. Awesome CircuitPython is a curated list of awesome CircuitPython guides, videos, libraries, frameworks, software, and resources. Lots of updates. The latest include added the newsletter archive list. So we have Python for Microcontrollers newsletter that goes out every week for the last 2 years. And now there's a list so you can go read the previous ones if you're not signed up for that. Added the latest boards that run CircuitPython from Adafruit, SparkFun, and the DigiKey Python section. Added video newsletter podcast playlists. Added the Adafruit Halloween M0 Express and hardware. Added the CircuitPython libraries and code, added CircuitPython in Micro Solutions Digital Magazine, the Amp Power 383 in news, and added CircuitPython Development Workshop in books. Did we miss anything? if you know CircuitPython resources, you can make the awesome list more awesome by adding to it. And the GitHub URL for that is github.com/adafruit/awesome-circuitpython. It's awesome lists are a thing. So yeah, that is both Lamore and Phil's updates. So Azura, do you want to update, or are you lurking at this point? All right, lurking. Okay, let's go to Brennan.
Okay, so last week, a couple of tweaks to Blinka. I think we probably need to do a release here pretty quick, but it's going to install the rpy.gpio library by default,
Okay.
which was probably breaking on a ton of different instruction sets that required installing something that depends on Blinka. And added a few lines of code for wrapping libgpiod for GPIO pens. As I mentioned earlier, it turns out that's not really going to work on the Raspberry Pi since it doesn't support internal pull-ups, but it will work for some other single board computers, hopefully. Also, some character LCD testing this week. Tested the motor featherwing library this morning. There's one pull request in for the TLC 5947 that I need to check on hardware. And then my big project is going to be pulling platform detection stuff out of Blinka and the Adafruit GPIO library into its own kind of standalone thing, and hopefully make it a little more rational, although I think it's always, on some level going to be kind of a collection of dirty hacks.
Right. It's good to isolate them. Quarantine those dirty hacks.
Quarantine the hacks and sort of have a stable interface over the top of them.
Yeah, perfect.
Also, I've got a foot switch input project in CircuitPython that I started ages ago, and I've finally got a desktop computing setup where I'm really using it. So I'm going to hopefully wrap up a tutorial on that this week.
Awesome. Thanks, Brendan. All right, let's go to Carter.
My notes here are a little sparse. Let's see. The temp 006 that I mentioned, basically just wrote that library, and then SpyFram. I can't remember what that was about. I think the PR for that, I reviewed it, and I think we got that. I think we got that merged finally. That was kind of something that was lingering for a while. But yeah, I set up the hardware, checked it out, and it all looked good, and I think we got it merged. And then that's about all I got notes on, but I guess all of the other small things that like Lady Ada mentioned, whatever those were.
Lots of small things.
Yep.
Awesome.
There you go.
Keep up with the small things, Carter. It's very much appreciated. All right. C. Grover, who's text only, I think, says, working on PCB designs this past week, not so much with CircuitPython. Besides shrinking the size of the Lunchbox synth daughter board, I've been playing around with PCB art and backlighting with SMD LEDs designed for reverse mounting. It's more difficult and mysterious than I thought it would be. Next week, we'll be focused on 2 CircuitPython Neo Trellis projects and 1 classic, in quotes, Trellis 2, a music concert instrument, and wrapping up some project enclosures. Awesome. Well, thank you, C. Grover. All right, Charles.
Well, I don't have much of a way of updates. I'm still, I was up until recently, I was sort of stuck with the baud rate problem, but that's gone.
Yep.
Thanks again to everybody. That's it.
Awesome. Well, it's good that you're unblocked. All right, Dan.
Okay, I'm still working on NRF stuff. I've gotten most of the kind of ancillary classes rewritten, and I'm working on restructuring the device class, which is in BLEIO right now. And as I wrote in the notes, we have these cases where we're talking about objects that are on ourselves, that is from the board's point of view, or our remote. So a Bluetooth peripheral could be like the board could be pretending to be a Bluetooth peripheral, or you could be talking to a Bluetooth peripheral. So we have to come up with a naming scheme. And so I was thinking of local and remote, and that seems to be the way it's talked about in the rest of the world right now. So I'll probably split it up into that way. But that's just continuing. That there'll be a PR at some point. Then I remembered that Limor asked me to make some changes to busio.uart for compatibility with Pi serial, which is kind of the default serial port library used on Python. And so there are some significant changes in there. Most importantly, the timeout, which used to be in milliseconds, is now in seconds. So Jerry already found code that he had to change when he was testing it. But that PR is in, and so these changes will be in 4.0. And then we have somebody who's been trying to use the ADC on the SAMD51 boards to monitor the battery voltage, and is having a lot of trouble, and there seem to be problems with the ADC. So I'm going to look at that, but if anybody has some comments about that, that'd be fine. I'd love to hear them, like problems that they had as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
Awesome. Thanks, Dan. All right, Dishipu's lurking, so we'll go to Jerry.
Yeah, so for me, it's been a kind of unfocused week of just getting sidetracked with way too many toys.
Sounds terrible.
Not a bad thing, but and then again, spent a fair amount of time on this Raspberry Pi SPI issue, and as Carter pointed out, it looks like it's just something people need to be aware of, and it did turn up in the forum, so that's what prompted it all. But if you're using an LSM9DS1, it uses the a different mode for the SPI than almost all of the boards do, and the transition back and forth, if you're using it with another SPI device, it doesn't transition nicely. There are some workarounds, but best thing is to just be aware of it and put that one on I2C if you can. And then again, playing with the particle IO boards like a lot of other people, they're lots of fun, and looking forward to the CircuitPython port for them. Also, yeah, again, the using CircuitPython on the Raspberry Pi has really been nice, and I'm taking a much more advantage of it now. Putting a bunch of things on there, especially some stuff that interacts with Adafruit IO, so I don't have to worry about using an ESP8266 for the Wi-Fi to hook up to another board. The Pi can do all that.
Right.
So it's really been nice. And just looking forward to doing more of the same next week.
Awesome. Well, thanks for the updates, Jerry, as always. All right, Katney.
All right, so my updates got a little out of hand.
Never.
Last week, Library Monday, went over all the library stuff, obviously. Over the course of the week, did various support on Discord and the forums. I live streamed the review process for Dakota Redstone. Finished up I did a while ago a NeoPixel toggle demo for the NeoTrellis M4, and was asked to write a guide page for it on the NeoTrellis guide to show how to actually use the NeoTrellis M4 CircuitPython library in a program versus just explaining the features. I finished up the text on that page, so all the writing bits are done for that. I updated the motor featherwing guide to the current design. Same way we're updating everything else. The code was fine, but the page itself needed to be updated to match how we're doing things. And then this weekend, I went through all of the issues on the libraries. I closed a bunch of them, moved a couple. If I pinged you on any of those issues, please take a look when you get a chance. I basically would just, with issues that have been sitting for a long time, if it wasn't obviously something that was still a problem, I tried to ping whoever was involved to see where things were at, and get any kind of, if we can get something moving on those, to make that happen. So this week, Library Monday, there are definitely libraries that need releases. I merged some stuff over the weekend and did not do releases, so I need to go through and do that. I already have some responses from last week's issue sweep. So, or well, it was yesterday, but last week's issue sweep. So I need to take a look at those, update the library tracking issue, verify everything's in the bundle. Once again, if you're looking for a way to get into contributing to the CircuitPython project, please look at the CircuitPython library tracking issue. I linked it earlier. There are some good first-time issues in there, which I marked as good first issues. And because I went through the issue sweep, so that's why I'm aware of the fact that those are there. So if you're looking to get started with anything, take a look at those. I need to email about a Raspberry Pi guide that may need to be deprecated. It was regarding a recent pull request. Carter, I need to talk to you about that later. Going to be adding Summersoft to the F-Frame guides as a contributor because he's going to update those, which will be great. That NeoPixel toggle demo page needs photos and potentially videos or GIFs. That's actually taking priority, so that's going to be the first thing I do this week after Library Monday is to get photos for that. The motor featherwing code has been tested successfully on Raspberry Pi. Thank you, Brennan. I'll be finishing up the guide update on that, and so the motor feathering guide is actually going to have, just like all of our Python CircuitPython page updates, will have both sets of instructions for how to use on the Raspberry Pi, since it's all the same code and the same wiring, so that's handy for that. I'm going to be potentially pulling the motor featherwing helper library out of the featherwing library and turning it into its own helper library because of the fact that it works on multiple boards other than the featherwing, and it's a super handy piece of code. So we may be either duplicating that or just pulling it out into its own thing. After that, I need to update or need to test the motor shield with that code, and then I'll be updating the motor shield and motor pi hat guides. And then I've got a whole mess of other guides that are next up on the list.
Awesome. So just doing a couple things.
Yeah, just one or two.
All right. Thanks, Katney. Let's go to Sean.
Since this is my first time, I will talk about what I've been asked to do, and that is to port CircuitPython, which includes the UF2 bootloader, to a number of different boards, mostly non-Adafruit boards. So the one I'm starting with is the Arduino MKR0, and there's a few others on my list working on just to port them, and then ultimately create a guide on how to load on the UF2, usually through the Arduino method, just downloading that .ino, running that, and then it puts the UF2 bootloader on said board, and then creating a bunch of pin definition and board definition files, and then I'll be doing pull requests to the CircuitPython repository with those different board definitions. And most of these, I believe, are the SAMD21 board, so everything in that M0 line. Right. Is what I'm working on up front, and then from that there will be a Adafruit learning system and learn.adafruit guide showing people how to not just put UF2 on, but also put CircuitPython on as well, and that just kind of helps the ecosystem. Whereas, hey, if you bought this, an Arduino board, the SAMD21, you can put CircuitPython on it, which would be super cool to see as we continue to spread it. What I've been working on this week is I got UF2 up and running. I did a pull request with that. It works for the MKR0, and I'm just porting over CircuitPython to the MKR0, and I'm currently writing a test suite so I can test the pins, test SPI, test I2C, and with that, hopefully with a decent, robust enough test suite, very few mods, I can just continue to test boards as I put them. So that's been this week.
Yeah, do you have a plan on where you're going to post the test suite?
Not quite sure yet. If you have a good idea, I'd love to post it done and get feedback on it and people are welcome to use it. I might roll a board or do something with a like a breadboard, because my thoughts on the testing SPI is just to buy like an EEPROM SPI chip and then read and write to it. Do I read and write the same number kind of thing?
Right.
So probably just like a simple breadboard, or even roll a board real fast just to put some parts down so I can test those things. So if you've got a good idea as a place to put it, right now it might exist as an advanced or resources section of the guide. Just be like, hey, if you want to port your own, here's the repositories you go to, here's the test suite, have fun.
Yeah, I'm sure we can find a spot in the CircuitPython repo.
Okay, that would be cool.
The Learn system is also backed by a GitHub repo for all like new example code, so it could go there. But I don't know. Either place would be good. But it's having it in a GitHub repo is always the best idea because it's much easier to update then.
Yeah, and then even I can still link to it even if I put it in the Learn. If I put it in the guide, I can still just link to it to the GitHub repo. That's easy.
Correct. Yeah, and Learn will actually slurp it in and put it in line as well, if it's short enough.
Oh, that'd be cool. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, great. That sounds awesome. Appreciate your help on this. And we have lots of folks who have done drivers, so if they have ideas about particular devices to do standardized tests with, I'm sure we could integrate that as well.
Yeah, that'd be good to know, because right now I'm just trying to figure out what devices are simple enough just to test different peripherals, and I'm sure I'll come across some weird ones, because I know that things like the CircuitPython Express has like a whole bunch of rules on it that you can test in place, but then there's also unique CircuitPython code for those.
Yeah, it is nice that like across the boards, like all of the peripheral code is pretty much standardized. Like you don't really have to worry about whether SPI works or not. It's more just a matter of making sure that the mapping is correct.
Yeah, that's what you were telling me earlier today. So I'm excited to try that on the board I have here, because it's a completely different SPI port they're using.
Right. I think folks coming from the Arduino world is like, is it serial? Like somebody was mentioning serial 1 in Discord, and it's like, we don't care. Like our philosophy for how to do all of that, like in CircuitPython is just like, you give it the pins you think work, and we'll let you know if it doesn't work.
Awesome.
Which is neat. So like people are always like, oh, it has 8 serial ports. It's like, well, I think there's 6 Circoms, so like we could do 6, just pick the right pins and
right, as long as they line up with the pin mapping names, you're good.
Yeah, and if you don't know it, Kattni also wrote a number of little code snippets that will actually it literally just goes through all of the combinations of available pins and will tell you like, oh, here's the ones you could use.
Is that in the GitHub repo? Because I could probably use that for these tests that I'm writing.
It's posted. I can link it to you later.
Okay, yeah, that'd be awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, it's pretty neat because we've been really good about like, oh, you want to try it with these 4, and then like there's a way to actually say like, I'm done with these 4, and so you can like use those pins in other combinations as well.
Right. Oh, neat.
So yeah, welcome to CircuitPython, and thanks for joining the meeting.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think the MKR 1300's already been checked in, so you might want to take a look at that as well.
I did. That's actually been super helpful to figure out how stuff is being mapped. Things are a little bit different on the MKR 0, but the 1300 was super helpful as a starting point.
Awesome. Those electronic cats folks in Mexico are really helpful. I think they're the ones that added it. All right, and last but not least, we have Summersoft, who says, last week did some Adabot work. I added an Arduino library script for comparing release tags to library properties. Finished up the ability to run CircuitPython library validators a la carte, basically by themselves. Hopefully fixed bundle updates for running Adabot on Travis with some Git email config stuff. And then for FRAM, finished up SPI version. So that was all last week. Summersoft, I feel like you've got even more than that. And say thank you to Summersoft because he's got to run to a meeting. And then this week, Summersoft is updating the FRAM Learn guides with CircuitPython usage and has commits needs released to Adabot Arduino. Check. So that's like, hey, you didn't release these changes, but they've sat here and fixed something for like the last 6 months. We have that for CircuitPython now, and so he's going to add it for Arduino as well. And that is the end of status updates. We're now in the weeds. So in the weeds section is currently empty. So if you have topics, well, of course, Carter's got a couple, so we'll start with Carter's. But for those of you who are new or just listening in the weeds is our discussion section. So just if you have any topics that you want to cover any questions you have about CircuitPython stuff, it can go here and we'll just have discussions. We do it at the end because they can actually be quite long discussions, but usually it can be just pretty quick and pretty short. So for these first two, we'll hand it over to Carter.
Sure. Okay. So for the first one, it's something related to those RGBW PRs that were happening recently with Blinka. I saw those and I was wanting to help out and do what I would do normally with a CircuitPython repo, which is pull the code down and use that code instead of the existing library code and just exercise it on a Featherboard or something to see how it works.
Right.
But with Blinka, it's a little different because you typically install those things through PyPy.
Right.
So it's kind of a little unclear where all that goes and propagates out to on
you
your...
can just put them in your local directory, and they'll get picked first.
It's as simple as that. There's no other little things that are happening in the operating system level that you need to deal with.
I don't have any problem doing that.
I would
you can always
recommend
uninstall it if it's already installed. You can always uninstall it first if you really want. But I just put the local copy in my in my local directory, and it seems to work fine.
I think there's a way to have pip3 install from a directory also, so you can.
I mean, you could clone the repo and it'll install and then install the PR. I mean, but if you don't want to install it, you just want to test it, you can do that.
Brennan, what were you gonna say?
So I've kind of got a process that I run through usually. I generally clone the driver repository. If I'm testing a specific piece of hardware, and then I will use virtual env. So to have like a .env folder in that repository, so things are isolated.
Right.
There's like a little command that activates it, and then it sort of reroutes everything so that you're installing in that local folder, and you're using a specific version of Python and specific version of dependencies. And that way, I think you get into trouble if you wind up installing things system-wide. And I also think you get into trouble if you wind up not knowing from scratch what you're installing, because there might be like dependencies that are not specified that should be, and then you miss that. Yeah. Also, like, it works really well, I've found, to do the, pip has a tech E flag, which installs things as symlinks to the local files in the folder you're in,
right?
So that like you can just edit those things and the changes are reflected instantly in your installed version, rather than you having to rerun the install over and over again.
Right. Care to write that up?
Yeah, that's about what I was about to ask.
Yeah. I was just thinking I'll put together some sort of a little guide,
or
to have it documented, or put it in the docs for Blinka maybe.
Yeah,
I don't know. I think a guide. I think you hit the nail on the head with the virtual environment kind of approach, and unfortunately, I haven't used those enough where I'm super good at using those. But I get the general idea of what you're doing there. That seems to make the most sense, and I think nuances to going that approach. A guide could be really good on that.
You could also do a sequel to our reviewing live streams. And show it live as well.
Yeah,
I would do both, but if you want.
Yeah, so I lost audio from you guys for a second, but the gist of what I was hearing was do a guide, or
yes,
please.
Yeah,
right,
yes, please.
Cool. Yeah, I'll add that to the list for this week.
Awesome, thanks, Brendan. Yeah, really good to have, and that should enable us to get more people testing it as well. I think Jerry's right. Like, putting it locally is how I would do it too, but I agree with Brendan that it's more kind of hermetic to do it in a virtual environment. And making sure that you install the right deps and stuff is good. Okay, and Carter for a second one.
Yeah, for the second one, it's just something I've noticed where I've been reviewing these PRs where I'm not sure who's been tagged as a reviewer, but let's say it's just been the CircuitPython librarians group has been tagged as a reviewer. So I'll go in and I'll look at it, and I'll I'll notionally say, oh, I'm good. And all I want to do is say that I've looked at it and leave it open for any additional CircuitPython librarians to try.
Right.
CircuitPython librarians, which kind of means everyone else is going to see it and go, oh, it's all done. I'm not even going to bother to look at stuff. So I'm wondering how I could like make it say something like, I've approved it, but only I have approved it. anyone else who wants to chime in, please do so.
Well, I think people should always feel free to chime in, and I'm definitely one of those people of like, if you've looked at it, I'm satisfied by that. Like that's enough for me. So
and see, I kind of want to avoid, I want you to still take a look at it.
I mean, if there are specific questions that you have for me or anybody else, feel free to mention them. I wouldn't approve if you have those questions still. But you should also feel totally capable in approving stuff. Like, I totally trust your judgment and your review to be able to pull things in. Otherwise, my approach is just kind of a sampling approach where it's just like every now and then I'll just take a deeper look at a PR that goes through my inbox. But on the whole, I won't, because, like once something is merged, you can always like go back and fix and change things as well. Like it's not set in stone even after it's merged and approved. So, it's much more important for people to get quick responses and good responses and getting it merged in than having it sit in this land of like, yeah, I think it's good, but maybe not good enough to pull in. So
I guess maybe what I can do is augment my reviews with comments in the discussion part of it.
Yeah, if you have specific questions about something that you're unsure of, please mention particular people that you think might be able to answer, and also don't approve it at that point. Like there is also no rush to approve something. I know I'm giving mixed things, but it's good to be responsive and keep it moving forward. So,
or I guess more specifically, like the scenario being like, let's say I have just a brief amount of time to look at a PR, so I'll scan it quickly. I'll two things will jump out at me, and I want to chime in on those two things.
Yeah,
and then move on. Or I guess that would be more of a change request kind of a thing, and not an approve.
Right.
But isn't there's a box that's comment without approval.
Yep.
And I tend to do that a lot. Just to put a comment in, but you're not necessarily approving the whole PR.
Right. Okay, so I'll just keep playing with that. This was something that was just kind of the verbiage that GitHub produced kind of bugged me.
Right.
I was wondering if there's a way I could click a different button or something.
You could try adding yourself as an explicit reviewer.
Yeah, I was wondering if that would work.
Before doing the actual approval, but
little kludgy, but I might try it just to see what happens.
Yeah, but you should also feel totally fine approving on behalf of the librarians. That's
which I am, but there are cases where I kind of want to. Yeah. I want to just I want to approve that's I've approved.
Right.
And I haven't approved for the librarian. So anyone who is a librarian will come along and see that and go, oh, okay, there's still possibly some work here to be done.
Yeah, I would be explicit about what you think should be looked at in that case. That's something that both like Kattni and Somersault have been doing a lot with the AdaBot stuff they've been working on, which is just like, okay, like Kattni will do an initial pass and then say like, hey, Tannewt, can you like check out this one thing kind of as a final sweep before we merge it in. And I'm always happy to do that. So feel free to mention me on stuff or anybody else. All right. And with that, I think we're through the weeds. Nobody has any other in the weeds stuff. You'll have to wait till next week or just in the text channel in CircuitPython. Let me take a time code and we'll wrap us up. As I has said, we are in the text channel in our Adafruit Discord most of the week. If you have questions or comments or things you want to talk about CircuitPython related, we're always there for you in the CircuitPython text chat. This meeting happens Mondays at 11 a.m. Pacific time, 2 p.m. Eastern. While I remember, it's usually Mondays. If we do alter it, like we will, around the holidays, in the end of December here. What we'll do is we'll pin notifications to the CircuitPython text chat with updates about when these meetings are going to happen. So please join there, take a look at that if you want to participate and know kind of what our timing is going through the holidays at the end of the month here. But besides that, usually it's Mondays in the morning, 11 a.m. Pacific, as I said. The meetings are recorded. They go up on our... sorry, I'm totally scattered. I didn't say how to join Discord, which is you can go to the URL adafru.it/discord. That'll drop you in there. That's our text chat. These meetings are recorded. They go up on YouTube, youtube.com/Adafruit. They also go up on Diode Zone under my account, TANNEWT. And along with that are notes with time codes. So you can always check those out. There's a GitHub repo of all the notes, so you can even do like a search through all of the previous notes as well if you're looking for particular topics that happened in previous meetings. As always, thank you everybody for your time. This meeting runs about an hour, so thank you for that, taking the time out of your day to attend. And we're super excited to see CircuitPython just continue to grow, and happy to have both the people in the voice chat and the people listening to this after the fact participating. We're so excited to see this grow as we kind of approach the start of our third year, which is very, very exciting. So until next week, thank you, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you all.
Have a good week.